Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I want to talk about expecting too much from myself. If you didn't know, I'm a writer. I have released 4 books: Our Doris, Indisputably Doris, Doris Ahoy, and the first in a cozy crime series, An Heir to Murder. I have released these 4 books over the last 5 years and you can see that they're all relatively short. After releasing Our Doris back in 2015, I ended up taking something of a creative break due to the fact that I ended up overwhelming myself. When I released this book, I chose to release it myself, and because of that, I was reading a lot of information and advice for indie authors. Because this book is rather short, and it only took me about 4 months to collate 4 years worth of work and write about 40,000 new words for the book, I thought that I would be able to write a sequel rather quickly. And back then, indie authors who were using Amazon as their primary source of selling were being told to try and release a book every 3 months. And another indie author who I work with a lot was releasing more than 1 book a year when she first started out. She has since then slowed down the amount she releases per year, but when she started out, she was releasing a lot more, and she had a significant output yearly, and she was doing a lot of events, which is not something I've done. When I first released Our Doris, I was doing a lot more events than I did with Indisputably Doris, and I did tour this book around for about 2 years whilst I was writing Indisputably Doris. But during this creative break, I didn't know what I wanted to write, and I realised something. Upon releasing Indisputably Doris, which I say I wrote for me, I included a lot more dark themes in here than I would have done originally. I realised that I don't work well with deadlines. I could never rush to write a book. Then, in 2017, when I released this book ended up being something of a flop. I still have quite a few copies of this book under my bed from when I first released it, with the mistakes in, because people just weren't buying it. It's still probably... well, no, it's not my poorest selling book. My poorest selling book is Doris Ahoy. At the time, when I wrote this, it was my favourite of the bunch. It has a special place in my heart because whilst I think I was a lot better in terms of writing and think that it shows an improvement in my prose, a few other people didn't get that. I saw the failure of Indisputably Doris as a reason to go and work on my children's book again. The middle grade book that I had an idea for this middle grade book in 2012, and I wrote it from 2013 to 2014 whilst I was submitting a young adult novel to agents. The first chapter was my final piece for uni, and I really liked what I did with that book. In 2017, I decided to go back and work on it again, which had always been something that I planned to do. I didn't know it was going to be then, but I planned to do that immediately. About 2 months later, I decided to work on An Heir to Murder. And so I worked on this from February 2018 till March 2018, put it aside. Then I went and I worked on the children's book again. And so I worked on that from August until February again, before writing Doris Ahoy from February until June 2019. Then I started working on the edits for An Heir to Murder. This all came with the idea that I could go back and work on the middle grade book, because I started seeing it as an aside, something that I could work on for fun. Then earlier this year, I thought about just scrapping the middle grade book because I have been finding it difficult, and this year will mark 3 years of working on this rewrite of the children's book. I recognised that how I was writing before, whilst it showed a lot and it was following the rules I'd been taught at university, it wasn't good storytelling. I needed to add clarity and help make sense, and also give a better sense of who the main character actually was. Over the last few weeks, I'll admit to feeling somewhat overwhelmed with everything. Now that I have the time that I wanted, that I had wished for, in order to finish writing the final Doris book, I haven't done that. Then I have also been wanting to work on the children's book, and also trying to read a ton of books because I agreed to participate in readathons. I'd planned to finish writing the final Doris book by the end of February, We are now at the end of April. Somebody else said maybe I could finish it by April. That hasn't happened, so then I feel like I failed again. And I said back in 2016 how deadlines don't work for me, and yet for some reason I have this pressure on myself as a writer still, that if I'm not putting books out into the world, then people aren't seeing the work I'm doing and immediately lose faith. And I saw a reader said they won't get invested in series because it takes too long for the authors to release books, and that's why they won't read new series, whereas James Patterson, an author like James Patterson, has books coming out all the time. I mean, he's not writing all of them, but he still has them coming out, and people see his presence there, so they think that's an author I can rely on. I think we're also in an era of wanting instant gratification for something, and so when we're reading a series, we want to be able to just go and get the next book ASAP, finish it immediately, and we don't want to have to spend too much time waiting for a writer, especially a writer such as myself who isn't prolific, and I'm also an indie author, so I don't have publisher backup. I don't have someone there saying, well, look, this guy's jumped through all the hoops and done everything necessary for people to accept his work. Late last year, I wrote down another flaming list of deadlines, which I said doesn't work for me, saying when I'd finish the final Doris book, when I'd finish the next Alice book, when I would finish my poetry collection, when I'd finish one of these novellas, and I had it all planned out. So I basically had these 4 books coming out over the next year. That's completely forgetting that I also am then working on other poems, or that I might have other ideas that I want to work on, such as last week I had an idea for a story and I wanted to go and plan that and work on that, but then I think, but that takes away from the time I could be dedicating to working on the final Doris book. Despite the fact I haven't worked on the final Doris book in nearly a fortnight now, and I was going to finish writing chapter 3 last week, but I just could not bring myself to do it because, as mentioned in my wool gathering video, I feel like I have no time to get anything done. I'm beginning to think that I forget that I'm human and that I don't have to be writing all the time, and that I have allowed people's negative ideas that if I'm not writing every single moment of every single day, then I'm wasting my time, or that because I want to build a career for myself, anything that I do for myself that isn't writing is not just null and void, but also somewhat, it has a shame attached to it now. So I can't watch a film or read a book without feeling this shame that I am wasting my time when that time could be spent writing. It has really been overwhelming me this week. I feel like I really want to work on finishing the children's book, but due to the fact that I want to then send it to my friends and get them to read it and respond to it, I want to try the traditional publishing route with that book. I feel like it's taking time away that could be spent on working on the final Doris book. I see author friends doing a lot, and I have done for years, and I just don't understand how they're able to get so much done. People look at me and they think that I'm managing to get a lot done because I've released 2 books within the last year, but they don't recognise that one of the books was written the year before, so it only needed editing, and that one of the books is incredibly short. Doris Ahoy is only 30,000 words. I also didn't make plans to tour this book around, so if it fell through and I didn't have the book, it wouldn't matter because I wasn't doing anything with the book. Also, as you can see, we have this stack of books behind me, which is I'm finding overwhelming because now I think I don't have any time in the world to read them. I have this stack of magazines that I said that I was going to read months and months ago, and I still haven't got to because for some reason I feel like if I can't count it and I'm not talking about it, then it doesn't matter enough for me to give it attention. I don't know what to do. I know some people talk about these daily planners, which I have, and setting times and goals to do anything, but that doesn't work for me because I can do like I've done today and like I did a few weeks ago and get up as though it's a normal working day and go sit down at my computer and try and start work, but there's just some sort of block there that I can't get past that is saying, what's the point unless people are reading it? Although I know I've written tons of poetry and I've written all these lyrics and I've written a short story and I've been working on a novella as well. I just keep thinking, does any of it matter? And then I have to think to myself, well, is it supposed to matter? And it's a strange place to be in, because I know that the last time I felt this overwhelmed by the amount of work that I had, I ended up throwing out half of my TBR, just getting rid of it, taking it to the charity shop. I ended up stopping writing everything and putting it all in boxes and avoiding it. And I don't want to give up on writing, but I'm just finding it incredibly difficult at the moment. I feel like I'm not allowing myself the opportunity to live outside of writing and literature. It's beginning to get to me and I don't know what to do, so I don't know what the point of this video is, but I'm just thinking maybe someone out there has some tips that could help me figure out what to do. Ordinarily, I would have other writers to talk to, currently stuck inside my house, and I'd just like to be able to chat to somebody about it, but I feel like I can't because we've got all these huge issues at the moment and I'm in my house worried about not having a significant output of books, and that I'm going to disappoint people if the next book I work on isn't the final Doris book because they'll see it as not counting. If you have any advice or suggestions, then please do leave that in the comments. I hope that I didn't bore you too much with this video. If you've stuck around, thank you, and until next time, that is all.